For the History Boys, thank you so much again for listening. I am Christopher Whedon, and I am a very excited History Boy, because we have a new special History Boy with us today that I haven't seen in a few weeks. His name is Zach Mack, and he's back in the studio.
Zach is back.
Zach is back. Zach is back.
Good.
I am Tyler Armentrout. I am a very relieved History Boy on this occasion. No longer will our viewers or my compatriots be burdened with my subpar audio recording expertise. We didn't realize how much we needed Zach on every conceivable level.
No, we did.
We did.
We did. We realized that almost immediately.
Not a moment of like misplaced confidence to be had.
Yeah.
That's why we called it a bomb threat at the wherever he was staying.
Yeah.
Had him sent home.
Yeah, I am the just like Seattle, the shambling corpse of that is Zach Mack, and I am back like scoliosis.
Yeah,
The venerable Zach Mack.
Yes.
The venerable. And I am Jerry Nash, your humble history boy. Thank you so much for listening, as always. This will be the last installment of this year's Spooky Season.
I've been spooked shitless for weeks.
It's actually coming out on the 30th, guys.
So happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
That would be Devil's Night.
Ooh, I love Satan.
Yes.
I mean, he's not real, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, this week, we are going to talk about the Dyatlov Pass incident. A lot of people have talked about this. A lot of ink has been spilt on this particular subject. But hopefully we can dispel a few myths maybe that have been pushed over the years with this episode.
If it wasn't the Yeti, I will fucking come unglued.
Oh, well, be prepared, dear listener, to hear Chris come unglued.
My glue is...
Chris is going to come unglued about Dip-Dot Pass, guys. Stick with us.
Dip-Dot Pass. In this episode, Chris becomes unglued about Dip-Dot Pass.
This is one of their, like, big conspiracies in Russia. You know, like, it's their big mystery. Every country has their big mystery. We have things like the JFK assassination.
Area 51.
Area 51.
The moon landing.
The moon landing.
We got a lot of them.
Most of those are bullshit.
Coronavirus. Total bullshit.
The conspiracies behind them are bullshit, I should say. Conspiracy theories are normally bullshit.
But they're fun.
As long as they stay
they
fun.
were fun.
Yeah, as long as they stay fun and they don't actually, like... There's not a big cross-section of the population that believes only conspiracy theories. That's when it gets
So when
dangerous.
2015 happened, is when conspiracy theories have been canceled.
And not
least not as
only
fun.
is it not fun when people believe it wholesale and it informs their entire lifestyle, but also when people cash in on it.
People start making money on it.
Yeah, and they don't even believe it. They want that cheddar cheese in their pockets. And
Well, yeah, who makes the Q flags, right?
Michael Flynn makes them in his garage.
No, they're made in China, buddies. And I love this. They're like, China's bad, China's taking over. But all of our shit is fucking made in China. It's like, it doesn't make it lick a sense. Really. It's such a... Anyway, I'm not going to talk about
Look,
QAnon.
I said it once and I'll say it again. There's nothing more patriotic than a made-in-China product.
You're not wrong.
Okay.
You're not wrong. Thank you, Dick Nixon. So the year is 1959. When a group of experienced hikers go missing deep in a remote region of the Ural Mountains in northern Russia. To its immediate south, on a map, Kazakhstan is to its immediate south.
Right?
That's not the...
like the movie?
Yeah.
I know a guy who was born there.
You would think...
Do you really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
You would think after the Ural Mountains being a linchpin to the Russian strategy dealing with the Nazis during World War II...
those are further back, by the way.
Well, didn't they cross the mountains and rebuild their war machine?
Yeah,
during World War II?
This is a different part of the range that we're talking about. So Moscow is actually on the other side.
Yeah.
because the Ural Mountains kind of snake along, right?
Mm-hmm.
They kind of go up, right?
There's like a bunch of them?
There's a bunch of them.
Ah.
It's a big mountain range.
It's a big country.
mountain range.
It's like the Rockies, but for Russia.
It's
So
huge.
it's the Ruskies.
So they're all bigger. Everything is
Okay.
bigger.
Yeah.
So they can still get lost up there. I got it.
Yeah, it's very remote. Now, when search parties ultimately did recover their bodies, because they did die, spoiler alert, I figured, like, that's not the mystery, right? The fact that they died up there is not the mystery, because most
We
people
know they died.
will actually know the story, right? Their death is not the mystery.
They're dead.
It's because of these bizarre details that sprang up when the search party did find them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, it really left investigators scratching their heads. Like, what the hell happened here? That is the mystery. That's the weird part. We'll get into how they died. That's not the weird part. It's why they died.
And
It is
how
the
they
weird part.
lived.
I like how we're telling this, or I should say, I like how Jerry is telling this like that of Camus' The Stranger.
Yes.
Like, it's just,
Heartlessly.
yeah, that's great. So we're all going to be, we're trying to convert you all into existentialism, just FYI.
Yeah, I hope you're already there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're listening to this fucking show, then yeah.
What does it matter, Zach?
Nothing matters. Just shoot somebody and not care.
Exactly. Money is meaningless, that's why you should give it to
Don't-
us.
don't-
Burn your money.
Don't do what Chris just said.
Yeah, don't do
Do
that.
not do that.
And
Yeah.
don't do what Jerry said. Send that money to us.
Yeah, if you're gonna burn it, you may as well send it to us. I'm just saying. But yeah, to this day, it remains uncertain as to exactly what happened to the hikers. And I'm gonna give you a bunch of scenarios at the end. A bunch of theories. Now, keep in mind, even the good theories, the really solid ones,
Ones with some meat on them.
yeah, it's a lot like Lizzie Borden in that you'll never really know. We just won't. We'll never really
It was that
know.
creeper they saw around. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Was there a creeper in this one too?
There may have been. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Wait, now Minecraft is involved?
Yes, he's blowing shit up.
Wow.
The northern Ural Mountains, especially the foot of the Otorten Mountain.
I don't think
I've
you
heard
can
it
say
pronounced
that.
a couple
Yeah.
of different ways. Otorten Mountain is very remote and barren. Yeah, you can see it there.
Yeah. I know it looks like I'm on my phone, but I'm actually. I
There's
am on
nothing
my
up
phone.
there.
But I'm looking at. Like, look at that. There's nothing.
Well, once you get above the tree line too, it's very barren. There's not a lot on growing there.
It's
People
in the middle of the goddamn nowhere.
Yeah, and people think that Otorten means dead mountain. Or some people have said it means don't go there in the Mansi
Don't
language.
go there, sister.
Which is like the indigenous people of the region, the Mansi people.
You're right.
This is not true.
It means old man afraid of his mountain.
It does sort of mean dead mountain. It's actually a mistake on a Russian map, and it's actually referring to a different mountain, right?
Yeah, you don't want to go to that mountain.
Yeah. The name of the real mountain that they were at is Lunt. And guys, I'm going to fuck up these Russian names. Guys, I don't speak Russian.
Who does?
I'm going to fuck it up. So,
Yeah.
apologize, okay? The real mountain is Lunt Kutsap Siakul. Okay? And it actually means goose nest. Goose's nest.
Yeah. Which, of course, goose nest is a metaphor in Russian for death trip.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in that goose nest.
Yeah, right. Anyway, though, Dead Mountain is still sort of accurate. And the reason why it's accurate is because nothing is up there.
And people died up there.
And because nothing is up there. Nothing grows up there. There's no game up there. Nothing's up there. And the Mansi people are
Not even
like...
Mousetrap?
They're hunters and they're reindeer herders. Nothing's up there.
Yeah.
Nothing's up there for them. And so I think that just sort of got changed over time, right? And of course there was mistakes on certain Russian maps. People think it means this or that. It really doesn't.
There's an area logging camp for North Korean criminals,
Dissidents.
to be thinking that they're serving their great leader, but they're actually serving the Russian government. Not even that. It's that remote.
Right, yes. And that kind of thing would actually be further east.
Yeah.
I imagine.
Now, in January, which is the time we're going to talk about here, The average temperature is 21 below.
Fahrenheit or Celsius? Either way.
Fahrenheit.
Either way, it's pretty balmy.
Fahrenheit, It is 21 below.
I know
on average.
I know that we know somebody that would be wearing shorts still in that temperature.
Now, their gear that they had for 1959, it was good gear, but it hadn't changed much from like Shackleton era. So that's the kind of stuff they're wearing. Like nowhere near like the modern stuff that we have now. You know, like
Jet
if we
packs,
look, your modern ski jackets with like Gore-Tex and all sorts.
There's nothing to wick away the moisture.
No, like soft shell layers, things like that. They don't have any of that. It's way more like Shackleton era stuff that they have. So we would consider it like roughing it, you know. But they are like being responsible, right, for their time.
They have all their pemmican available to them.
Probably vodka.
They had a small flask of medicinal vodka. But they were all 100% sober. All the hikers were 100% sober. In fact, they abstained from smoking cigarettes while on the trip, except for one guy who he had an antique pipe that he would sometimes smoke from. Yeah.
You see, I can't believe that just because of all of the stereotypes that we as Americans have
Come to know.
consumed. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not really true. It's not really true.
But like, I feel like cosmonauts bring vodka into space, right? At least they did back in the day.
I don't know if that's true.
I assumed it was.
I get American propaganda is the only way I get any of my news.
So you listen to Fox News.
They gave Laika a big flask for it to drink out of.
Well, I was gonna say when he said a small flask, like world small or Russian small.
No, not, like actually a very small flask. It was a very small flask.
You know, the original
Vodka.
cosmonauts rockets actually were fueled by a very high proof vodka. It's not true.
I know.
Anyway, Jerry, where were
Now I want some of that rocket fuel in my system.
So yeah, there's a certain thing a few things you need to know about the hikers that is not along with the Russian stereotype that you might think. They were all virgins. Back in those days, it was a different time. Okay, it was a different time. Even though this is sort of they have 2 women and 8 men. Even though this was a certain time, they didn't really think about it in that respect, right? The world has changed
So what
since
you're saying is
1959.
they're virgins when they left.
They were virgins even still. They talked about poetry and love and relationships all the time on
That's
this
some
trip.
virgin shit, yeah.
It is,
Also,
isn't it?
Once you get laid, you let that shit
Then
go.
I looked up photos of the hikers, and how come all the photos have the Brazzers logo on the corner?
Jesus Christ, dude.
Just kidding.
Now, in 1959, Nikita Khrushchev was in charge of Russia.
I picture him as Steve Buscemi now.
Yeah. He looked nothing like Steve
know.
Buscemi.
He didn't even have a New York accent, turns out. Death of Stalin, everybody.
Yeah.
Great movie.
It is. But the Soviet Union during this time is called the Thaw. And it's sort of when rules from the Stalin era were relaxed a little bit, right?
Thawing out.
It was thawing out.
Khrushchev was like, I'm a cool guy.
But not that cool, because I'm thawing things out.
Yeah. And,
That's a good point.
sort of the intellectuals kind of came back in Russia at this time. Soviet Union, I should say, in this time. Anything is really looked at as an improvement when Stalin is the guy before you. You know what I mean? So it's an improvement.
When you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, right.
True.
So Khrushchev was a step up, albeit maybe a small one, right? Now their goal was to earn their grade 3 hiker's certification. And basically to get they were all grade 2 hikers, meaning they're intermediate.
About like 8 years old.
Yeah.
Second grade. Yeah.
That would explain why they were all virgins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
They were
hope
all
they
very
are.
serious hikers. They took all this very seriously. And when you go on these trips, you document it, right? And you prove that you've met all of the requirements. And then they give you that grade. So you can go to more difficult hikes, maybe that are a little bit more dangerous, right? And that's what they were working towards, this grade 3 certification. They were all very experienced and very serious about hiking and all this stuff. That's why they were all friends. They were all friends because they had been on hikes before with each other. All had a great time. If anyone was a dickhead during these hikes, they were kicked out of the group.
It's kind of like Seattle, where you got those groups of friends who all hike.
Yeah.
And then you got, the alcoholics.
Yes.
No.
Sometimes they're both.
That's actually very true.
I've met a couple that are both, yes.
I know most hikers, I'd have to be fucking wasted to go hiking.
I don't think I could do it wasted.
I don't want to. I'm not going hiking. Fuck hiking.
I gotta be stoned to the bone to hike.
Look, no.
I gotta be under threat of death to hike.
See, Jerry almost is there with how to properly hike. You have to get, you gotta get stoned if that's your thing, and then you hike up a fucking tall-ass mountain or hill or whatever, and then you get to the top, and then you slam a bunch of beers, and then...
Dude, you're gonna be burping up all sorts of shit on a hike. It does not sound great.
You can do all that shit at home and it'll be better.
It's so much fun because during the time you get to piss anywhere you want because it's nature.
I do that anyway.
Yeah.
Chris is like, is this Tower Records nature?
It used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this McDonald's alley nature?
I like that you choose
now.
a business that hasn't existed for like 20 years.
I know. I was about to comment on
You're
that.
like, it probably is nature because it's overgrown.
Yeah. There's a bunch of weeds around it. Yeah.
I have not pissed since the last Tower Records closed, so
You're full of piss.
I gotta go so bad.
Yeah. They were all students of the Ural Polytechnic Institute, which is now called the Ural Federal University. But this is sort of like a school for like engineering and like
a bit of a technical school.
It's sort of, yeah. Like they were all engineers and geologists and like scientists in a lot of ways. Like they were like commercial developer experts and things like this. Industrial development.
That would explain the virginity.
Yeah.
Well, you would think going to a school with poly in its name that everyone would be in a romantic relationship with each other.
With each other, yeah.
They were, but it didn't go past hand holding.
I'm more about the technical school of hard knocks.
There you
That's
go.
where I went.
Yeah. And it did you so much good.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you're not a coward anymore.
I majored in having a bad attitude.
Now, the group was really tight. They all worked together really well with each other. On this trip, there was one guy that they didn't know. There was a last-minute addition.
Oh, yep.
Right?
This guy.
He's the killer. I'm just putting it out there. He's the killer.
He was
Mr.
a new addition.
Orange.
And let me get there's an element of that.
Oh.
But let me talk about the hikers. I want to talk about the hikers because honestly, when I started researching and I got to know who these hikers were, they seemed like people I would know. Except of course they were from 1959, so they thought differently, and they were ardent communists. Definitely Soviet.
What's
communists.
the difference?
Yeah, this is true. People living in more conservative areas consider people that live in Seattle communists. That's the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that.
Anyway, okay.
Wait, that was a joke?
Yeah.
I thought it was real.
There was Igor Dayatloff.
Igor.
The pass is named after him, of course, after this incident. Okay.
Okay.
He was 23 years old. He was their leader, their fearless leader, and he was hardcore. And the thing is like, yeah, they did the trip for fun. Yes, this is what they enjoyed
it sounds
doing.
like a blast.
But the thing is this. It wasn't just for fun. It was to test themselves, and that's sort of what they considered to be. It was their thing. It was their thing. Our thing is we podcast and make movies and make art and stuff. These guys, their thing was hiking, and they were very serious about that. So they took it seriously. Yeah, he was like their stalwart leader. He was going to bring them to the grade 3 certification.
But once you do it, like, there's no social media to post and brag about. So, like, why even do it back then,
Yeah, if you went hiking and you didn't post it on Facebook, did it really happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Afterward, they just go, I did it.
Yeah. At least they have the certification though.
Yeah,
they have the new certification. They can put that under their belt. And honestly, he was popular in his school like, if you wanted to hike, you wanted to get with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, like, this is a guy that, man, if you're serious about this, you want to get you want to be next to him.
These hiker phones.
Yeah, yeah, hiker Fonzie.
He was the king of walking.
He also built shortwave radios in a time where shortwave radios were illegal.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so it was sort of a DIY type thing that he could talk to other shortwave radio operators throughout Russia, sort of as a side hobby.
So he's a bit of a bad boy with those black market transistors.
Yeah.
I wonder what the conversations were like. What you doing? Over.
Well, a few of them were into shortwave radios, too, even though they were ardent Soviets. The way his body was found, he had over 16 things amiss with his body. About 11, I want to say, 11 injuries to his sort of bones, his outer extremities. Let me just kind of go through these. Minor abrasions to the forehead, minor abrasions to the upper eyelids, brown-red abrasions above the left eyebrow, minor abrasions to the left cheek, brown-red abrasions above both cheeks, dried blood on his lips. Lower jaw had a missing incisor, but this actually was gone long before the trip. So this is just something they noticed. He had a missing tooth, missing top incisor. He had bruised knees. Both ankles were, I think, broken. Many small scratches all over him. Purple-gray discoloration on his hands, meaning he was frostbitten. He had pretty bad frostbite. That's not surprising, as we'll see. A lot of his joints were sort of broken and frozen, okay? And we're going to see this over and over again. He had a couple of superficial wounds. He died, ultimately, of...
A heart attack.
No.
Old age.
He ultimately died of hypothermia.
I'll get you.
And most of them did die of hypothermia, ultimately.
Man, when you said that there were things wrong with his body, I was going to say I'm a body positive guy, and well, the jury is out on that. But based off of your explanation, he got fucked up. Big time.
Yes, he did. And you'll start to notice sort of patterns with the state of their bodies as they were found. And it leads people to think certain things, right? And always keep in mind that during murder investigations and missing persons investigations, when bodies are found, or even when bodies aren't found, any detail, factual detail, seems weird. They all seem weird. They all seem suspect. So you kind of have to take them all with the same weight. Because if you go down one hole, you end up thinking it was space aliens, right? So let's
That's
look
ridiculous.
at this.
It was Bigfoot.
Yeah, let's look at this subjectively. Then there was Yuri Doroshenko. There's actually, I believe, 3 Yuris on this trip.
There's like 4 Russian names.
Doroshenko is how I'm going to call him, except for one Yuri, who that's just how I'm going to make sense of it. Doroshenko, he actually turned 21 on the trip.
Aww.
And it's a sweet moment because they gave him a tangerine for his birthday. And the thing is tangerines for them were native to Uzbekistan. And they were kind of rare. And because they're in season for a very specific amount of time. So it was a very rare treat. And people gave them to each other on birthdays. And what he did is he peeled it and then gave cross sections to each of the other hikers so they could all enjoy the tangerine.
Dope.
And like all these little details sort of do paint a picture of how these people were. You know, they were friends. Normal people.
That was good Yuri, is what I'm getting from this, or sweet baby boy Yuri.
He was so good, there was the good Yuri blimp. And on the side it read, Ice Cube's a pimp.
Jesus Christ. Doroshenko, he died of hypothermia. In the hair of the deceased, they found particles of moss and pine needles. Not surprising, considering where he was found. He was found underneath a cedar tree. Him and another guy, I'll kind of get to this later. He had pine needles on him. He had some think he had fallen from the tree because there were signs that somebody had crawled up the tree and had cut branches off or broken branches off of this cedar tree. And there were firs and other trees that don't burn as well, right? And we're going to kind of get into that. Cedar burns real well in nearly any climate. It's a very dry wood. It burns really hot and fast, too. So you have to, like, stoke it up, right? And when I kind of get to the story, this will all make sense. But he was found with these pine needles and stuff on him. His ear, his nose, and his lips were all covered in blood. He had a swollen lip, of course, from where it busted open. His right cheek and soft tissue were covered with a gray foam, a gray liquid coming from his open mouth. This is from pulmonary edema, is what this is from, as death is sort of setting in. Very sad. This story is very sad. This group of friends dying, very sad. He also had inner surface of his right shoulder had 2 abrasions, no bleeding on the tissues, but he had a couple of cuts on his skin. His right armpit had a bruise, so it's clear that he may have landed on his right side. He had bruises all over his arms, basically, swelling and small abrasions in the rear and the right hand soft tissue. A lot of bruising. Basically, people said, like, some of the injuries that they sustained are the same as, like, getting hit by a car.
Wow.
Okay, people say that, and when people say getting hit by a car, it sort of conjures up like, well, you can't do that naturally, can you? And it's like, well, yes, you can actually, and you can do it easier than you think. His hands were frostbitten and burned as well, not just frostbitten, but also burned.
Well, maybe he's like, if I warm them up enough, it'll burn off the frostbite.
I'm thawing them.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to fuck this name up. But Yuri Doroshenko, I believe is his name.
Sounds right to me.
Right.
23. He was kind of the jokester of the group.
Oh,
He played a mandolin.
well, a lot of japes, a lot of jabs.
A little bard, huh?
Yeah, he was. They actually called this time like the Rise of the Bards.
Okay.
Because records were actually illegal. They had like bone records, right, where they would have X-rays, and they would basically illegally carve an album into an X-ray, and they're called bone records.
So
That's
fucking
what-
Bone
Yes.
records.
And they would actually the Soviet government would actually make records themselves, and in the middle there'd be like an official that would scold you for listening to it. They're like, "Oh, you little capitalist pig! You listening to records? You know."
Listen to your bone records.
Well, bone records were the bootleg ones.
Yeah.
That you'd get on the black market, but like
But the official ones-
there'd be like normal vinyl records.
Okay.
Because they didn't want to use vinyl because that was like something they would use for the war effort, right?
Right.
So if you got a vinyl record at the time, chances are there's like an official on there that berates you for listening to it, which
that
is crazy.
It sounds like a kink record at that point in time.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's like, ooh,
I would love
you're
to have
such a
one.
bad capitalist.
Yeah.
Listen to you listening to this record.
I would love to have the ones put out by the Soviet government at the time, and I would love to have a bone record
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
That'd be rad.
So you got bone records, you got government issue records, and then most people, it sounds like, are like that gang from Rocky that just hangs around a fire in a barrel, like singing doo-wop.
Yeah, yeah, because music at this time was sort of passed around by word of mouth, right? The Rise of the Bards kind of a thing. So everybody, or I won't say everybody, but a lot of people learned how to play instruments and sing and stuff, because if you heard a song, the only way to get it was to play it,
Yeah.
right? That's what he did. He was definitely a welcome member of the group. He actually, because they took 2 trains to get there, and then they like rode in the back of trucks and in the back of like wagons and shit to get to where they needed to go.
Yeah.
And then they went on foot, right? So it's deep as fuck. But as they were waiting for one delay for the train, Doroshenko started playing his mandolin kind of loud, and I guess the song he was doing he made up, and it was sort of making fun of the train people for the delay. And a cop came over and shamed him.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, I could arrest you right now. I could take you back because you're violating this part of the law, which is do not disturb other train passengers. Which I actually like as a law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, don't disturb people in the bus. Don't disturb people on the train. Don't disturb people on the airplane. Or else we're going to throw you off.
Yeah. Especially on the plane.
Also,
Yeah.
do you take requests?
Yeah. His body had bruises all over it. It was frostbitten. He also died of hypothermia. He was the other person found by the cedar tree. His body was also burned.
Ooh.
Was his mandolin al-kabonged over his head?
No. He actually had to leave his mandolin in a cache. Which is a smart thing to do for hikers. Because, like, you leave it at, like, where it starts getting nuts. You know, and that you leave a few supplies there. So you go up and you do it, you have your supplies, you come back and you hit the cache, and now you all of a sudden are resupplied, right? The stuff that's, now it's easier to carry, because you're not going up a giant fucking mountain.
And if you and your comrades mysteriously all die, then a new adventurer can find your cache and be like, oh, sweet loot.
Well, it happens in Antarctica, you know?
Yeah.
True.
So, yes, and the two bodies at the cedar tree were found laying, like, side by side. And they were moved. It was clear that they were moved side by side. And it was also clear that there was another person there. Another person. It's curious. Another person there. And there's signs that they had built a fire. Or at least had tried to. Right?
Makes sense. It's cold up there.
Right. Again, I'm leaving out the crazy part. Right? I'm just telling you how the bodies were found. Because this is how the investigators found them. They didn't put all of this together until when I'm about to put it together for you, right? And they found these two bodies first, and then the others much later, in the spring, okay?
Oh, okay.
They just couldn't find them. You know, they were probing around with these poles and trying to see if they could stick into
Nothing
to a dead
squishy
person.
yet.
Basically. I'm giving you how they found the dead bodies.
Right.
And then I'll give you what they think happened, right? Then there was Ludmila, or Ludya Dubanina. She was the youngest of the group. She was 20 years old. And it seems like she was in charge of the record keeping for the group expedition diary. They had like one overarching diary for the expedition to document everything, to turn it in, and get their grade 3 certification.
Do you think she was also in charge of the bone record keeping?
No.
I mean, it's this spooky season after all.
She was a great photographer. She took a lot of pictures on the trip. And actually, on a previous trip, she was actually shot. Somebody accidentally shot her in the leg. And they had to carry her out of there. And the whole time she was, like, making light. She was joking around. So
So she didn't learn anything from that.
She was trying to lift the spirits of her fellow comrades, right? She had a lot of broken ribs. High on the right side, and then almost all the way down on her left side. A lot of broken ribs. Her eye sockets were empty. She didn't have any eyes. Whoa. We found her.
Cool.
Her nose cartilages were broken and flattened. Soft tissues of her upper lip were missing. Teeth and upper jaw was exposed. So you could see her teeth. Her lips were gone.
So she just looked like the Crypt Keeper.
In a lot of ways.
But he has eyes.
Pretty gross.
Right.
Yeah, she had no eyes. And she had some head, like as if she was concussed. She had some head trauma.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Then there was Alexander Kolovatov. Now, short for Alexander in Russia is Sasha. So, Sasha Kolovatov.
It's a real Dick Richards situation.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, all right, I guess. I guess that's the same thing.
Well, there's a lot of variations of Alexandra. There's a lot of variations of that in Russia.
I was waiting for you to say it's actually like the long version of Alexei, or like Alexei's.
Well, Alexei's comes from the same.
It's in the milieu.
It's in the milieu. Yes,
Right.
Yes, it is. He was 24, and he actually came from a family that would be considered affluent at the time. His dad basically had a good position, right? We would not consider this family to be affluent. In fact, like, his dad died. He had a whole host of struggles, basically, after, like, during the Stalin era and after the war. He had a whole lot of things happen to him, but he still went to school. He was a very smart guy.
His family had a Yugo.
he was a nuclear physicist, actually, at the school. Now, he had a lack of soft tissue around his eyes. His eyebrows were also missing, so the skull bones around his eyes were exposed. Those were all exposed.
But you should see the other guy.
The bridge of his...
Yeah.
The bridge of the nose is straight, and the nose cartilage is soft. Now, this is super weird. When palpated and his unusual mobility, the base of his nose was flattened with the nostrils compressed, which doesn't necessarily... Basically, it doesn't mean his nose was necessarily broken. They found him face down, and his nose was frozen flat against his face, basically, is what that means.
Ugh.
Some would call it an improvement.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Got a great
Jesus
looking guy.
Christ.
Got him.
He had an open wound behind one ear. He had some internal bleeding. His skin was sort of coming off because he was in a wet environment. Okay, and I'll kind of get to the wet environment of this.
Well, when you die, over time your skin starts to detach,
Yeah, and he was in the water, basically.
making it even worse.
Yeah.
Right, so basically it was just... His skin was sloughing off of him.
Yes.
I think is what
Yes.
the term is.
Sloughing, yes, that's a
Yeah.
good term. Then there was Zinaida, or Zina, as they called her, Kolmogorova. She was 22, and she was... a couple of the guys had crushes on her, and they admitted that.
Warrior princess. I mean, come on.
She was pretty, absolutely. She was one time she was bitten by a snake
Nice.
on a thing, and they were like, "Well, let me take some of your pack." And she was like, "No."
I thought they were like, let me suck out the poison. No, let me suck out the poison. Like, where was the bite, you know?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Good to know that she was on top of things.
If you know what I mean.
I've referenced both the Xenas I know, and I'm out of Xena references.
Now, Xena had some face trauma, as if she had fallen on her face, or again, there was blunt force trauma to her head, right? She had abrasions around her eyes. There were numerous abrasions on her cheeks, bruising, meaning she was alive when this had happened to her. She didn't die right away. She had a couple of wounds with sort of jagged edges, and, of course, frostbite on the fingers. This is something that happens with pretty much all of them. There's frostbite on all of their fingers. Mm-hmm. There was one big bruise right around her midsection, as if somebody hit her with a baton.
Oh shit.
Right? Like one big whack with a baton or some blunt force trauma.
Maybe a tree branch?
Could be. A blunt force, anything like that. Then there was Rustem Slobodin.
Rustem.
Damn near killed him.
He also played the mandolin. He was kind of the strong, silent type kind of a dude. He was like the big dude of the group.
He's like, come on.
Strong, silent type.
Mandolin's
kind of
how I express myself. Like, I want to be the mandolin guy in the group.
Now, Rustem, he had a lot of hemorrhaging going on his body. He had abrasions on his forehead, a couple of scratches, traces of blood discharge from his nose. He was hit in the head real hard, basically. He had a skull fracture up the left side of his head. Again, looks like blunt force trauma. He had anything else that would go with that. He had.
Mm-hmm. And folks at home, if you want to play a really cool drinking game with this episode, every time Jerry says blunt force trauma, you got to take a shot.
Yeah.
And if you're not blackout drunk by the end of this episode, you're like 179 shots is what you're going to end up taking.
They actually calculate how much urine is in their bladder
Oh.
on this thing. She was not sexually active at the time of her death.
Oh, good.
Well, didn't you say that they all died virgins?
Oh, they all died virgins, absolutely.
So no over-the-pants action either.
Probably not, no.
That's not living.
Yeah.
Do you think every single one of them before they died said, I don't want to die virgin?
Yeah.
With Lydia, the youngest member, her tongue was missing as well as her eyes as well,
Oh, yes.
which is weird. But we'll get to that.
Sounds like the ravens got to her. Happy Halloween.
Yeah.
Then there was Yuri Yuden. Now, Yuri is the only survivor from the trip. He's 21. Mm-hmm. The reason why he's the only survivor is because he had rheumatism. He had a couple of health issues, sciatica. He may have had a cold as well. And he really tried. He tried to make it the whole way, but there was one morning when he woke up and he couldn't really stand up straight, and everyone's like, dude, it would be suicide for you to go on this fucking trip. So he turned around and left before the shit got real fucking crazy. And he didn't go straight home either. He went somewhere else and spent time there, and he actually didn't realize his friends were missing until the investigation was already well underway. And he actually died in 2013.
Huh.
Wow.
And probably with a bad case of survivor's guilt. Mm-hmm. He gave rare interviews as well. Our main book, Dead Mountain, fantastic book. Guy did a lot of research for it. He went to Dyatlov Pass. He actually talked to him. He got the last interview this guy ever gave.
And did he admit it?
No, actually, I do want... If you want to know what Yuri Yuden said, go read that book, because it is weird what he has to say. I didn't include it in the show just because I got a lot going on.
It's weird how many times he says, I really wanted both loots. I wanted to be the loot guy. Why are there two other guys who get to be
Mandaloon?
Mandaloon? Oops,
Mandaloot.
Mandaloot. I wanted to be the mandolin guy. It's really weird in the interview how many times he says, I wanted to be the mandolin guy. There's two mandolin guys. I'll do anything to be the mandolin guy.
Yeah.
It's like, I called mandolin first, and they deny it, but...
No. He was a geologist.
It was a bit of a he said, she said situation.
Yeah.
And it didn't help that, that's where the phrase, this is not the way, came from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was a geologist, and there was a abandoned town. And there was, people say, oh, they moved out because of the war, they moved out because of Stalin, da-da-da-da-da. Don't really know. But there were, gyms. It was, a gem mining place. And he wanted to, see if there was any left-behind gems that he could take.
hell yeah.
Gems. I thought you said it was
Gems.
a gym, like for gym rats.
Or
You wanna
Jim
get to
from The
Swanson?
Office.
Yeah.
They're just digging Jim from The Office out of the ground, and there's, a bunch of them.
He's just making a mug,
Yeah.
that stupid face to the camera.
Yeah, we'll release them into the wild.
Yeah.
I kind of imagine that a Soviet gym in that period of time would be just medicine balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all we have. Lift the ball, throw it across the room.
That's
I don't know.
healthy.
It's healthy. Yeah. Take snow bath. There was Nikolai, and his last surname is actually French in origin, because he is descended... he's a Russian, but he was descended from a French immigrant to the Soviet Union.
Named Marquis de Lafayette. They all seem to connect back to
Yeah,
him.
yeah, I know, right? Thibaut Brignoles? I don't fucking know how to pronounce it. Brignoles is how
We'll
I
see the
probably...
spelling in the show notes, folks.
Look, Jerry, the way to pronounce it, just pretend you have a potato in your mouth and you're slightly drunk and you have the afterglow of sex.
I believe... honestly, that's not a bad way of describing it. And reeking of cheese, I feel.
Exactly.
Let's just get them all in there, guys.
I believe it's Thibaut Brignoles.
There you go.
Thibaut Brignoles.
I believe. But they called him...
Thibaut Brignoles.
But they called him Thibaut.
T-bone.
Thibaut, yeah.
It's like each trilogy.
I like how you said T-bone and Chris goes T-bone.
They're like,
Like
yeah.
a steak.
Thinking Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that what George named
wanted-
his penis?
He
No.
wanted to name him... He wanted...
He wanted his nickname to be T-bone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, he ordered a T-bone steak at a meeting, but another guy orders T-bone steak, and he gets the T-bone steak.
Oh.
Yeah, he gets the T-bone
And he gets the
nickname.
T-bone nickname, yeah.
And then George
yeah.
yells at him, and he's crying and acting like a monkey, and they call him Coco.
They call him Coco, the sign language monkey.
Got him.
Watch Seinfeld. It's on Netflix, everybody.
And the last member, and you may have noticed that I said 9 hikers died, and I'm now naming the 10th member.
Well, one survived.
It's because Yuri Yuden left the group.
Right.
Oh, actually, I didn't say what happened to Nicolo Brignoles.
Pancaked
old
by a
T-Bo?
drunk dump truck driver.
Thibaut
Throat slash.
Thibaut was a civil engineer. He was very friendly and funny. That's the way all of his friends
He wasn't an
him.
uncivil engineer, so
No.
makes sense. Checks out.
He had some of the most horrific injuries, in my mind, Nikolai did. Multiple fractures to the temporal bone, that is the side of your skull, with extensions to the frontal and sphenoid bones to close up the fractures to the skull. Basically, it went from the right, like the top of where your nose meets your eye on the top side. It went all the way back to the right side of his head. And the right side of his head is shattered, basically. Mm-hmm. It looks like puzzle pieces. Like, it's fucked.
Right. Just from what you described, it reminded me of like a window,
Yes.
like spiderweb crack.
Yes,
and
it
then,
does,
like,
yes.
Yeah.
He died from those injuries. He died from his fatal
Yeah, no
skull
shit.
injuries.
Did you say, which
Yeah.
one's the sphenoid bone? Isn't that like inside the skull?
Yes,
Like,
I believe
if you,
so.
If you
Yeah,
fucking shatter that, like you're
fucked.
going through
You're
a lot
dead.
of things already.
You're right. Yeah.
So it sounds like the TLDR version.
It's already a bad day.
I shouldn't laugh at that, but oh
So-
my god.
So he is one of the only ones that died of a different injury other than hypothermia. Everyone died of hypothermia except for Ludia. She died from internal bleeding from severe chest trauma.
And have her eyes dug out of her face.
And her tongue was gone, yeah. They found coagulated blood in her stomach, which signifies that she was alive during most of this time, which is agonizing to think about, with severe chest trauma, and then having a bunch of... I mean, I can't imagine. That's what she died from. She didn't die from hypothermia, so that must have been excruciating. And our next guy did not die of hypothermia. He actually died from severe chest trauma, and that was Simeon Zolotorov. Zolotoriov. He was the oldest member of the group. He was the late addition to the group.
The Mr. Blonde of the group.
Yes, he was 38 years old, whereas they're all in like their mid to early 20s.
I'm 38.
Yeah, it's not that old.
He was 38.
He
was the oldest
he had a lot
of
life,
the group.
A lot of life ahead of him.
Yeah,
Well, he also had tattoos, which were not
Ooh.
common back in the day.
probably illegal.
No, in fact, the only people that had tattoos were combat war veterans.
Cool.
He was a combat World War II veteran.
That makes sense.
He had the shelf life. He was a combat engineer. That's why he went to the Ural Polytechnic. The shelf life for them was really low. Like, I want to say 60 to 80% of combat engineers for Soviet soldiers died in World War II, which means there weren't very many of them still alive after the war.
Sure.
You know, they actually gave them breastplates to wear to go out and fix shit, because that's what they did. And the breastplates didn't do anything. Those German guns went straight through the breastplate. So he was lucky to be alive.
It was a ceremonial breastplate, if anything. My preliminary theory on what happened is...
Let me talk about what happened to Simeon. And his name is Simeon.
Like the monkey.
It's not Seaman, as some people have said. It's Simeon. Semyon. Simeon.
Simeon, like the monkey.
Simeon now.
But he actually went by his middle name, which was Alexander, Anglified Alexander, right? So he probably actually went by Sasha, which is a common nickname.
Right.
He probably went by Sasha.
So we have 2 Sashas, 3 Yuris, and
A Xena warrior
the
princess.
Xena warrior princess.
Ludia.
And a
Yeah,
Ludia.
we got an Igor.
And we got an Igor.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Simeon, his eyeballs were missing.
nice.
He had missing soft tissue around his eyes as well, where the bone was exposed. He had an open wound on the right side of his skull with exposed bone. It's right on the top of his head. And he had a bunch of broken ribs
Oh, man.
up top. Again, a lot of these injuries would come from getting hit by a car or really bad blunt force trauma. Okay? But yeah, he died from his chest wounds. And if you look, there's actually 2 sides where it broke. So his bones collapsed on the inside of his chest, stopping his heart.
Fuck
Right.
off.
So whatever hit him real hard, right in the chest.
Right.
I got my theory.
Okay, well,
We'll get
we
there.
haven't even explained anything else yet.
Well, I mean, come on, it's clear. Kangaroo with boxing gloves.
So the deaths, the way these people died, is not the weird part. It's where they were found and why they were there. That's the weird part. Okay? So their tent, which they set up responsibly. So basically, once they took all the trains and they partied with some woodcutter guys at one point, even though they didn't take much alcohol, they had like a sip of champagne. Barely anything. And that was good, and they got along really well with these woodcutter guys. And after the abandoned town, and when they were finally on foot, they were sort of going over this pass, and the weather started to get kind of bad. And they veered off course just a little bit, and they realized this. But Igor didn't want to lose high ground. He didn't want to go down and then back up again. So he's like, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to camp on the side of this hill here. Because one of the requirements is that you do this. To show that you can, you know. So we're going to practice. Hey, right now is a good time. Weather's getting bad. Let's break camp right now. Or, let's make camp right now. And we'll do it on the side of the hill. Just as regulation shows. And they put skis underneath as like a floorboard kind of a thing. And it's a big tent, guys. Yeah. It's a tent for 9 people. It's a big tent. Canvas tent.
Okay.
Their cooking stove, actually took a while to set up. Like, it took them over an hour to set up their stove, okay? So that's like a task, right? And they're all their bodies were also found in various degrees of sort of undress. A lot of them had no boots on, no shoes, no socks on. In stocking feet, not only ran out into whiteout conditions. We talked about this, whiteout conditions, where you can barely see, you can't hear anything, right? They ran out of the tent, for some reason, a mile away. All their bodies were found about a mile away. 2 of them were found by a cedar tree where they started a fire. There's evidence of where they started a fire, and tree branches from the cedar tree were broken, as if somebody climbed up into the tree, broke down the branches, and started a fire.
But took off their shoes beforehand.
They didn't have the shoes as they left the tent.
Yeah.
Fuck.
That would be suicide. And they must have known this because they're experienced hikers. But when they left the tent, they were not prepared, right? They weren't dressed right, and they must have known this. So, what a lot of people think is that whatever this was that caused them to leave the tent must have been terrifying. It must have been a moment of sheer confusion and sheer terror for them to leave the tent this way. And when I say leave the tent, they didn't even take the time to leave out the front. They took a knife and cut their way out of their own tent from the inside. And this is a detail that they have confirmed. They cut their way out of the tent from the inside. Now, we don't know if all of them left out of that cut. Some of them could have gone... There's 9 people. Some of them could have gone out the front, and another guy thinking... I'm not going to waste time.
I'm not waiting in line.
I'm going to cut my way out.
Not when this kangaroo and boxing gloves got
He's hopping around.
Like, fuck.
I can hear him out there.
He got in.
The point, that is the mystery, okay? That is the scariest part of this story, is something happened to these experienced hikers to scare them in such a way to make them leave the tent, the safety and warmth of the tent, in a big hurry, okay? And that's where they're found a mile away. They were running, and it's clear that they were running, because if you were to walk in your stocking feet in negative 21 degree weather, and that's the average.
Have a bad time.
It was probably colder than that. They were running, and it's clear that they wouldn't have made it to where they did is if they were walking, okay? So
Maybe
they were
somebody
running.
farted in the tent. It was so stinky they had to get out. They had to get out of there. They smelled
Quite the nuclear thing. And by the way, some of their clothes were irradiated.
It was a radioactive fart.
They were irradiated, which is weird, right? Let me talk about that here in a second.
Kangaroo Jack traveled backwards through time. Peered in the tent.
He took their money and he's not going to give it back.
No.
Yeah.
He was trying to get away from, what's that, Anthony Jones? Is that a character's name?
Anthony Anderson and Jerry O'Connell.
Yes. Yeah, Jerry O'Connell was fresh on his tail.
Yeah.
I'm well versed in the lore.
A portal opened up inside the tent. Kangaroo Jack hopped out. This is from the sequel.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, it's such a bad
You
movie.
got Chris O'Connell, you got Anthony Anderson, you got...
Jerry O'Connell.
You got both O'Connells?
Well,
No, it's Jerry O'Connell.
it's
Chris O'Connell was different guy.
Well,
Yeah.
but there's twins, though,
that
right?
makes sense, though, because he's...
Charlie.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
Jerry O'Connell was on the show Sliders, so he made a Sliders portal. And then
And
Kangaroo
he's like,
Jack.
here's a look into my future career, and
Yeah.
they all ran away in terror.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's the guy from Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Which
Yes.
wouldn't be out
And
for
he
a while.
grew up and got buff.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was in a few comedies in the late 90s.
Early
Comedy movies, early
2000s.
2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was kind of a Dane Cook at that period of time.
Yeah.
Married to Rebecca Romaine Stamos after she split with John Stamos.
Oh, is that true? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I think they're still together.
She was
Okay.
Mystique.
She was. There was evidence that they were basically just sitting down. They had their camp put up, and they were just sitting down. And it's clear that like a couple of them had maybe lagged behind a little bit, and they waited for them to come back because they were actually sort of dressed, right? The way they found their bodies. They're like, well, they must have been, they must have just caught up, by the time they were cutting their way out of their own tent. And they saw that they had some cold food. They had some ham and a couple other things that were cold. There was actually a cup of cocoa frozen there, as if somebody just set it down and it froze there. Everything looked like it was just set there, and then somebody ran away from it. And that much is clear, that they ran away in abject terror.
Why would anyone run away from a delicious meal of cold ham and hot cocoa?
And a warm tent. And it wouldn't be hot cocoa because they didn't have the stove set up yet.
Cold cocoa.
In fact, they
and
may
ham.
have just started to set it up.
Right. Well,
When whatever happened.
And just to clarify, you're saying that there's pretty much nothing going on at Dyatlov. Like, there's no fucking animals. There's it's just a barren fucking wasteland.
There's not
correct?
a lot of game. No, and people have said, well, what about a bear?
Right. That was my first thought.
Yeah.
Was could it have been a bear? Could it have been a Siberian tiger? Could
Well,
it have been,
And
A
one of them,
mammoth?
I think it was Igor, but I could be wrong about that. But one of them actually fought off a bear
His bare hands.
with a knife, and just his own fucking courage. I mean, these are Russian badasses.
That is
You
right.
know what I'm saying?
So whatever spooking them had to spook them real good.
Real good. They don't scare easily. These people.
the Baba Yaga.
Keep that in mind.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It's definitely Baba Yaga.
John Wick.
Yeah, it's
John
Keanu
Wick.
Reeves
Yeah.
up there with 2 guns, and he's like,
They shouldn't have killed his dog.
"It was these guys who did it."
They were Russian.
The mystery doesn't lie. A lot of people are like, "We know how they died," and it's like, no, I know. We've all known how they've died. For a long time. Actually, the mystery again is not how they died. Okay, the mystery is why they left the tent, the safety and security of the tent, and above that, cut their way out. That is the weird part. Okay, so let's think about this, because
And without shoes and shit.
without shoes and stuff, I mean, these are experienced hikers. They would have known that that's suicide to do that, right? So it must have been something big. Now, there have been a ridiculous amount of theories as to why they would have done this,
Oh,
right?
so somebody already came up with the Kangaroo Jack theory, I imagine.
That is brand new to History Boys.
You heard it here first. Kangaroo Jack done did it again.
It's a team effort between the two of us.
Because every book and everything, they have their own theory, and they're like, here it is, guys, it's rock solid. But again, no one really knows. No one will probably ever know.
Because the missing piece of the puzzle wasn't there.
Exactly.
Kangaroo.
A survivor, a witness might have been the only way you can prove it.
I think we should ask Jerry O'Connell.
He's suspiciously silent on the subject. Now, of course, one of the theories is that it's a Yeti.
Yep.
It's a Yeti.
Yetis aren't real.
No. But let's
Kangaroos are.
let's suppose they are. Let's suppose Yetis are real, in fact.
Yeah.
It'd be
Now,
cool.
during their trip, they made a like a mock newspaper, and a lot of like Antarctic explorers and stuff. They made a little fun newspaper where
gazette.
Zine.
where they joked.
Yeah, definitely a zine.
It's a thing where they joke about their trip. It's a good thing to do to blow off steam and take up time, right? And they have a picture. They took a lot of pictures, but they have a picture of a guy back in the forest, and it's not clear what it is, right? And they say in both the diary and their newspaper, they say, now we know that the snowman exists, the abominable snowman exists, basically.
Interesting.
A lot of people have taken that for truth, but the thing is, of course, is it sounds like a joke.
Sounds like a joke.
The photo, there is a photo that's supposed to be the Yeti.
Yeah.
It's clear that it's one of them standing far away in the trees. It's clear that it was a joke they were making.
They were having fun.
Honestly.
They're college kids. They're college kids
Yeah,
that are
man.
bored and on a hike, and they're all virgins. So of course they're gonna joke around about.
And they're all
something
straight
like that.
edge. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and they're all straight edge too. Fuck, these people sound insufferable.
Yeah, fuck them.
Zach, no. It's 1959, man. Punk rock hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
I'm not with that attitude.
That's the picture. That's the picture.
It's weird that he's clearly wearing clothes.
Yeah. it's not convincing to me. I'm sorry. Here's what blows that out of the water for me. No footprints were found other than the 9 people.
Okay.
Now, you can make the argument that Yetis know how to hide footprints and know how to hide evidence. That just seems far-fetched to me.
To be honest, I'm starting to think the kangaroo one might not be up to snuff because kangaroos wouldn't know how to hide snow.
Yeah, it's true.
They're
All
also not native to the northern Ural Mountains.
Hence the portal.
Jerry O'Connell.
That part was solid.
that part. Yeah.
So we got a hovering Yeti on our hands.
Yeah,
I still think Baba Yaga.
she flies around in a mortar and pestle.
Exactly.
Okay, okay. Then we have, the Monsi have legends of gnomes.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe it's a group of nefarious gnomes.
But gnomes ain't scary.
Well, and I'm not going to give it any
Gnomes
more...
are scary and gross.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to give it any more credence than that. It's not
I thought
mythical
gnomes were just phallic symbols.
It can be.
It can be.
So is the Yeti. What do you think
guess.
that pestle is, anyway? Or mortar?
You're talking about the Baba Yaga right
Yes.
now. Not the Yeti.
I was like, no, I know. I was going through the whole thing.
Maybe both. Maybe a Baba Yaga and a Yeti.
What
teamed
other
up.
creatures from folklore? Could just name them. They could have been a goblin.
Oh,
could have been a ghoul.
Oh, I got another one. This is from definitely
Manticore?
20th century folklore, I would say. Space aliens.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Space
That's-
aliens. Because their wounds are consistent with maybe being dropped from a great height.
Sure.
Right?
So they got picked up by alien spaceship, probed, and then just dropped off.
Well, yeah, they picked them up from their campsite and then dropped them a mile away.
Oh, so they're
Does that make
lifting
sense?
them up in the tractor beam, right?
Yes.
They're
Right
lifting
on
them
the
all
tip.
up,
Yeah.
and then they see that kangaroo come for them. They're like, fuck. They drop them and just fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is that? Get out of here, man.
What is boxing gloves?
And then, of course, there's radiation, there's burns, there's things like this. And the thing is people are like, you see, aliens. And it's like, in the theoretical world where aliens exist, I guess they cause radiation, and I guess they cause burns.
Yeah, you could just say they could cause anything.
Yeah,
'Cause-
you could, because it's made up.
But
Yeah.
didn't they have a nuclear physicist with them?
They did.
So
They did
maybe he
indeed.
was like, look at what I brought. Plutonium. And everyone went, whoa! And they ran out of the tent and died.
I mean, hey, that's actually that's not a bad idea.
fucking idiot.
He carried plutonium with him this whole time.
Yeah.
He's like, what, are you giving us all cancer here?
Yeah.
Yeah, like homie did a Homer Simpson where like there was a thing in the back of his jacket. He's like, "What the fuck is this?" Well, they're like
Getting
doing
setting
their
shit up.
tent and everything, and then like throws it down on the ground, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, it's glowing rock!" And
Let's get outta here.
Yeah,
Let's get out of here.
Or he's like, I stole this plutonium from the university. I'm going to show it to Xenia. She's going to be so impressed that I'm going to get like 2, maybe 3 makeouts. Then I'll be number 1 guy.
But then he tried to propose to her, and it was so embarrassing that everybody fucked off out of the tent.
Yeah, it was so cringy that
like,
he
I
get
can't
the
be here for this.
fuck out of
Fucking me out.
that.
I'll cut my own hole out of the tent. See, that literally could have happened. Like,
guys,
physically could have happened.
We've solved it.
Yeah.
Well, now there's more evidence, believe it or not, for the space alien theory.
Oh.
Because earlier on in their trip, there was a second group of hikers that were going slightly in a different direction than they were, but they were also friends of theirs. So they like met up and they were talking. They're like, "All right, we'll have a good one." When they like parted ways, so they were around the same area around the same time, and they reported to investigators that they had indeed seen strange orbs and strange lights in the sky.
Oh, fuck off. You know that it was the Aurora Borealis.
That's my point.
Yeah.
These strange
Totally
lights...
localized in their kitchen this time of the year.
Yeah.
Steamed
May I
hams.
see it? No.
Yeah. Strange lights in the sky are normal for
Beautiful.
where they are right now. Okay?
That's grasping at straws.
It is. It's evidence that I guess supports the space alien theory. And
The problem I have with that one is that aliens aren't real.
I mean,
Or at least visited this.
aliens, I
do believe life exists out there in the universe that is statistically...
a fact.
yeah, that statistically has to be the
Yeah,
case.
you dumb hikers. That's just the magnetosphere of the Earth being bombarded by coronal mass ejections, you idiots.
Fucking moron.
You would think a bunch of college kids, too, would realize that.
Yeah, right.
What was the other
Pretty
ones
young.
that say it?
Yeah, it was the other
our
guys.
guys could have been like, yeah, that's Aurora Borealis.
You
They died, so
idiots.
nobody ever heard anything
Yeah.
from them. It was
Yeah.
these other fucking chuckle-nucks.
Chuckle nuts.
Chuckle nuts.
I don't know,
I
man.
like that. You kind of like self-censored yourself
Into
into a silly word.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Thank you.
Yes. It's good to be back.
It's good to have you back.
It feels good to laugh again.
Remember laughter?
Remember laughter?
Yeah.
From that like live recording of Stairway to
Stairway,
Heaven.
yeah.
Where you go, you guys have you
Yeah,
guys all
Robert
heard
Plant.
that?
Yeah, Robert Plant.
He's like,
Does
anybody
anyone
remember laughter?
remember laughter?
No.
It's like, no.
Yeah, world's so tough, nobody laughs anymore.
Yeah, don't go to rock stars for deep shit. It's a bunch of bullshit. They're uneducated.
Yeah.
They make great music, but they're uneducated.
Every last one of them.
Yeah.
With their complicated shoes.
For your deep shit, go to podcasters.
Yeah, come to me.
Yeah, we get
Come
you.
to Jerry specifically.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I'm kidding.
We're not philosophers.
Yeah.
Sign up on our Patreon so that you can hear us blathering philosophically about
All sorts of things.
Who knows?
stuff.
What even is?
Wow, good question, Tyler.
Bill Clinton.
All right.
No, remember,
Anyway,
that's a thing.
the next possibility that people put forward was that they were intruding on sacred Monsi ground.
Ah.
Okay, and maybe this mountain is sacred to them. Okay, or at least this area is, and they came in, and they didn't want them to be there, and they did this to them.
And had machine guns.
It's
They didn't
absurd.
fire them, but
Yeah.
they sure branded them around.
Oh, they brandished them.
Yes.
Yeah. No, this is absurd. The reason why it's absurd is because, again, no other footprints except for their own. Also, they are extremely peaceful people. Extremely peaceful. And they don't have anything that is sacred around there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
In fact, they got the names wrong, for God's sake.
They're like, it's nothing sacred.
Yeah, they're
That's
like,
part of their religion.
Yeah.
We don't worship shit.
yeah, right.
I'm kidding if there's any Monsi listeners.
I doubt it. In fact, the Muncie language is endangered.
Oh,
Not a lot of people speak it anymore.
it's like a
that's-
humpback whale.
I want to discount the Muncie theory entirely.
and I want to call out Rosetta Stone. Fix it. Add it to your selection so more people can learn it. Bring it back from the dead.
Sure. Not a lot of people you can talk to in Muncie, but
Yeah.
still.
Oh, it's like the Salish people here in
Yes.
the Washington area.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Another one is an avalanche. Now, you can hear an avalanche coming. It makes a lot of noise. And they were on the side of a hill.
Sure.
And so, an avalanche, hearing it coming, they all know what that sounds like. Get the fuck away, right? Makes sense, right? It doesn't make sense. The reason why it doesn't make sense is because when the investigators found the tent,
it wasn't buried under snow.
It wasn't buried under snow.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe it melted.
There was still
Jesus
snow.
Christ.
There would be more snow.
And it would have been, like, knocked over and shit.
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
and the thing is they could track their footprints, right?
Oh, yeah, that's...
Even after more snow had fallen, they could still track their footprints, even though they kind of disappeared. They could at least track them a little bit.
What was the jokester's name? You remember him? The first mandolin guy.
Yes. The jokester...
Yuri.
Yuri number 1.
Yuri Krivonashenko.
Yeah, so he was all like, "Hey guys, it's an avalanche!" And they all panicked.
Yeah.
And then they got out to the middle of nowhere with no shoes on, and they're freezing to death. And he's like, "I was joking." And they're like, "You've killed us.
It was a bad joke.
We're
I'm
not
sorry.
making it back."
Yeah, and then they
beat the shit out of him. And then each other because it
they
felt so good.
Yeah, they said, "Don't worry, we still have 2 backup Yuris, so it's fine." And then one of the Sashas was like, "Hey, leave him alone. I like him. He's a funny guy." And so then he got, and then they beat the shit. Like, and then it kind of turned into it got out of control. They all beat the shit out of each other,
Which is another
infectious.
stereotype of Russians that we have grown accustomed to.
Which is not true.
Short fuses love to fight.
Not true. Not
Yeah, I
true.
know.
Americans,
Short
you can say
fuse-
that about Americans.
Short fuses do love to fight. Jared.
No. You see, the thing with us Americans is that, like a proper American, we sit at the dinner table with our Glock in one hand and our fork and knife in the other.
Peacefully.
And when we peacefully...
And the crucifix right behind you as you say grace.
Yeah, dominating the conversation.
Hell yeah.
Good old-fashioned Protestantism.
Yeah.
These guys didn't believe... They were all atheists because they were all ardent Soviets. So they're all atheists.
Oh man, they must have loved Bulgakov.
Probably.
Fucking Master and Margarita, one of my favorite books. Read that, dear listeners, if you want some delicious Russian satire.
I like to think an angel came down, and it freaked him out so bad because they don't believe in him.
Yeah.
That they fucking ran for it. I'm just getting.
You're spitballing here?
I'm just
Angel with boxing
no wrong
gloves.
answers.
Yeah.
Angel with boxing gloves? Wait, so we're gonna go with like the
Put up your dudes.
It was like an Evangelion angel though. It's like geometry.
Well, I was thinking of like what the traditional angel, which is just like the eyes, and
like
it's just a ball
and a wheel.
with wings.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like all these wings, yeah.
It's like the
And it
Professor
had
Brothers.
boxing gloves.
Yes.
It's like the Professor Brothers, like, I don't know if you've ever seen a real angel, but trust me, they're horrifying. Now another one that we can't discount, actually. We can't discount this one. Is a dispute or a fight.
We just said that.
Well, I know, but
Ours
think
was a little
about-
more bonkers.
I know. Think about it this way. How many times have you been near or in a situation where there's sort of a cascading of events? Somebody says something, it might be misinterpreted, and then all of a sudden it cascades, it becomes this bigger thing.
I know.
I think that this is a thing. Hold on. I think this is a thing that you can't discount. However, to get so mad and so pissed off with each other that you cut out of the tent and run a mile away in whiteout conditions just seems a little far-fetched to me.
I know what it is. I know what the dispute's about. They finally... Okay.
All right.
The
all right.
two...
It's going to be a sex thing.
The two girls finally decided that they were going to have sex and that, might as well have an orgy and make a thing about it. Like, just like it in
Yeah, I was thinking about, like,
in
the end of it, yeah.
Right?
Jesus
But,
Christ.
so, like, the dudes were all, like, ripping and ready to go, just, like, all horned up and like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is going to be great. But then they had to start drawing straws to see who was going to, be first and who was going to get, like, sloppy seconds and everything, right?
Sloppy nights.
Sloppy nights, exactly, right? And then, of course, a brawl ends up breaking out, and one of the girls jumps in and is like, yo, hey, no, it's fine. Like, everyone's going to get into my puss. It's going to be great. This, that, and the other.
Jesus
Next thing you know, her fucking
Christ.
tongue gets ripped out of her fucking mouth, and
Okay.
her eyeballs get gouged.
Okay.
And then the other girl who is witnessing this slices open the tent and is the one that bolts out, while the dudes are just battle royaling.
And the fight got really heated once the fucking Kangaroo showed up.
Exactly.
And the Angel, both having boxing gloves.
And a
Yes.
Yeti with boxing gloves.
And the Baba Yaga.
With boxing gloves.
Yuri Yuden.
They got the boxing gloves from the gnomes.
Yuri Yuden said.
Case closed.
Yep, solved it.
We did it. Thanks for listening to the History Boys. We'll see you next week. Love you, bye.
Yuri Yuden said that any kind of fight or dispute, especially over romance, is absurd. He knew these people really well. These were his best friends.
God
that
damn
died.
it.
He said it was absurd, and honestly, if it's one thing that he said that I completely agree with, it's this. And because, they may have had crushes on each other, but at the same time, they're all virgins. They're all talking about love and poetry and these really heady topics. I don't think it's a dispute. Even though we have a 38-year-old that is not one of them, they became fast friends with this guy. He started like joking around with them. He was included into the group pretty immediately.
Was the 38-year-old also a virgin?
I don't know if he was. I don't think he
doubt
was.
it.
I
Yeah.
doubt it. I
No
highly
way.
doubt that.
Let me show you the way.
Except for all the people from the college certainly were, but Yuri was not.
Wait.
Sasha was not.
We're talking about Russians. One of them came out. And they were like, ew, get out of the tent.
Gays don't exist in Russia.
I know.
Yeah, that's
Well,
what I heard.
let me get to that line of thinking, because that is a Soviet line of thinking, is certain things don't happen in Russia. And they don't happen to good Soviets, right? They don't happen.
They're like, people can't drive cars because cars drive you.
I cannot go 55.
Kilometers per hour.
Yeah. Physically cannot. Now, another one. And a lot of people give a lot of credence to this one, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, it's the fact that there's a government cover-up. Government conspiracy. Now, a lot of people have pointed to the fact that this is the time of the Cold War. And there's nuclear...
Well, they were really cold.
Yes. There's nuclear testing, there's missile launches, there's things like this, and there's a lot of secret things happening, especially in the northern area of Russia, where, the Soviet government wanted to keep things under wraps and secret, and they were very secretive. And if you saw too much, you had to go.
But
Right.
footprints.
Footprints. See, that's the thing for me. However, let me throw in a couple of things here. Now, the investigators say that they found the bodies on February 15th. So the events we're talking about is February 1st and the early morning hours of February 2nd. This is like midnight to 5 a.m. The reason why we say 5 a.m. is because the guy, one of them was found with 2 watches on. He was found 2 watches on. This is another head scratcher. Why was he wearing 2 watches?
Doth thou protest too much?
Yeah, so he is wearing 2 watches. That's weird, right?
That's a virgin move.
Let me tell you.
probably his
You know
look.
virgins and all their watches.
Well, one of them has a calculator on it.
One of them's a TV
No,
tuner.
these are wind-up watches. And the thing about these wind-up watches is they don't really do too well in cold situations.
So that's why you gotta have a backup.
That's why you have 2. So I think one person gave the other watch to the other guy who was supposed to wake them up, right? When they woke up in the morning, right? So make sure they don't sleep in too late. And having 2 just means that you got a backup, right?
Oh yeah, I've set 2 alarms before.
So that's why he has 2 watches on, right?
For better reception.
Yeah. They all say that it was the 15th when the government found them, right? However, recent documents, because they have recently reopened this case, the Russian government has, recent documents have come to light that in fact they knew about these bodies, and not one document, three documents date the finding of the bodies as February 6th. These documents should not exist. Why should they not exist? How did they possibly know that they were there on February 6th? Because Yuri Yuden said, well, dude, I'm going to get a telegram from them saying that they're safe. That was part of the deal. Once they came out of their whole trip, they were going to send telegrams saying, hey, we're okay. Now, you give a couple of days leeway because there's always delays, right?
Sure.
But there would have been a telegram saying that we are delayed. The 6th is not that day, right? So the thing
Why would they
is,
have looked for him?
no one would have been looking for him by the 6th. That is why these documents should not exist. How would anyone have found them by the 6th? That's odd. And to be completely honest with you, I do not understand.
A lot of weird shit.
But it's documented on 3 separate documents that the government had found them on February 6th. And the thing is that first investigator was fired. He left, and then another one came in, right? And that's where we get the February 15th date.
You weren't supposed to find him till the 15th.
Yeah, so people have said that, okay, they saw a super top secret thing. They saw a missile launch or something. They saw a nuclear bomb explosion, some people say. They saw something that was secret that the Soviets were trying to keep secret.
That also irradiated them.
And KGB, Spetsnaz, whatever the fuck, decided that they couldn't live. Now, there's no bullet wounds on anyone. There is blunt force trauma, but no bullet wounds.
Right.
Spetsnaz doesn't need guns.
People have hypothesized that they showed up, marched them away, right? Cut out someone's tongue because
She was being mouthy.
Exactly. You're talking a lot, that
And she was looking around at everyone.
Yeah, so
they
you cut out the eyes. Yeah. So all that, that supports that, right? But again, footprints. Except for by the cedar tree, again, remember, there's a third set of footprints. There's 2 dead bodies at the cedar tree, and then there's a third set of footprints, okay? A third set. That's weird. And that supports this theory.
But who else would have the technology to build shoes that look like freshly laid snow than the Russian government? It's like a shoe that looks like snow. Just wrap your head around that, guys.
Some people say...
Would that be like a snowshoe?
No, snowshoes like tennis rackets.
Right.
This is
a shoe of snow.
Yeah. It's like a shoe made out of snow, maybe.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Now, the 38-year-old, some say that there is evidence to support that he was trying to get through this hike as quickly as possible, denoting that he may have been a KGB plant sent to look after them because they may have been problematic. I mean, they're building illegal shortwave radios. They're singing songs that are illegal. They're doing these things.
That's enough.
So maybe they sent a KGB plant with them, and that was this guy, Sasha, and he's KG about his name, kind of a thing. He's older, he's a military veteran. These things, so maybe he has some connection there.
Adds up.
And but why is he dead? Right? Why is he dead too?
Because he wanted to finger blast Xena. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Why are you asking me? I wasn't there.
After he killed them, he ended up with a couple of mandolins, a whole mess of bone records, and
And then he had to be killed.
Yeah, exactly. He had all the
He got too close.
Yeah, he's got
became too
pockets full of
friendly.
transistors to make contraband shortwave radios.
He went way Dances with Wolves on
Yeah,
it.
he went
They were
native.
like, we can't have it.
You weren't supposed to see the bone records.
When we found him, there was 8 dead people around him, and he was tapping his foot to the sounds of some I don't know, bone records.
Well, you know what also supports this point? You know what was missing? They had a small amount of chocolate that they had purchased on their way up there that they were saving for the end. That was gone. Chocolate was gone. So was their flask of medicinal vodka. That was
Someone's
also
got
gone.
a sweet tooth and likes to party.
You know what happened, though? The investigators, a couple of, like, the lower guys, admitted later that they drank the vodka and ate the chocolate.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it's snack time.
Well, we did. We figured it didn't make any difference if we ate the chocolate and drank the vodka. And it doesn't really.
Yeah, they were put
Honestly.
to death, but...
They went to the gulag, but...
It didn't matter for the case.
Yeah.
But it
did
mattered.
Yeah.
It mattered very much to their families
Yeah.
when they were erased.
Well, and the lead investigator, he was called back to Moscow at some point, and when he came back, he was like, "Hey, we don't talk about that anymore. We don't talk about shit that you're not supposed to see anymore." And they were like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Well, what about the Dyatlov case?" And he's like, "I don't
Shut the fuck up,
I don't want
you
to talk
idiot."
about it, you know." And which is
It's just so
that's
boring.
spooky. It's spooky, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
hence the season.
Yeah, yes indeed. Now, the last two, or a mixture of the last two, are kind of what I think, my favorite. Right? And it's not ooky spooky, so I'm sorry if I'm letting
I'll be the judge of that.
people down. Jenny,
Reality is often disappointing.
yeah, Jenny, friend of our show and Patreon pal of the show, wanted us to do this episode, and I hope she's not disappointed by what I think it actually happened.
Well, you're gonna.
I hope not. I hope what I've found is satisfactory.
Yeah,
I
if you
really
think
do.
if you think if I'm going to be judging your findings, she's definitely going to be.
So there's been a couple of authors that have done a lot of research, including the author of Dead Mountain, which I encourage you to read, because I'm not going to go into the full theory. He makes a really good case, and honestly, if you're more curious about this, go read that book. It's really good. He exhausts every little detail on all of these things we've only glossed over. Okay. But a few authors and a few other people, they've sort of put their ideas together, and that is these vortices, these catabolic winds. Some people have called them sort of mini tornadoes, okay? Formed in this area. This area is shaped a certain way that would allow this to happen, these mini tornadoes to happen. And it's not the fact that the tornadoes picked them up and threw them. It's not that. It's that they heard it. And the thing is they sound horrifying. Like, we talked about Magellan, we talked about Shackleton, and hearing booming winds come down from some of these tall, stark cliffs, right? And you're not used to hearing some of this stuff if you're not from there, right? And the thing is they're used to gale force winds, used to hurricane winds in these situations. But I don't know if they were prepared for this type of thing. All of a sudden, the weather got so bad, that outside, it sounds like a freight train is passing you. It's so loud and horrifying, and your whole tent is shaking. And honestly, if that were me, I would have shit my fucking pants. Yeah, I would have been horrified by that. I would have been so scared by that.
Could they have genuinely thought it was an avalanche?
They could have thought anything. You know, something bad was clearly happening. They could hear it, and it was shaking the tent, and it was getting real bad outside.
Did they shit their pants?
No,
There was no dookie found in the pants?
They even honestly, when I go and research,
I
usually
always try to find dookie in pants.
usually the websites I find that are dedicated to certain topics are generally
Pornographic in nature.
bad. I'll just say bad.
Graphic.
Bad.
Shitty.
Not as well thought out.
Okay. I get what you mean.
The Dyatlov Pass incident website, I think it's actually called DyatlovPass.com. It is. They have an amazing website. they have so much stuff. In fact, what they have in their coroner's report, they actually have horrible graphic crime scene photos that they've, thank God, have hidden. You have to click on them to see them.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I wish everyone did that. But they have the full report in there. So they even list how much urine was in the bladders.
Mm-hmm.
They list all of these things. Great website, honestly,
So
for this.
But they don't list how much poop.
Oh, they do.
Okay.
And yeah, all that stuff. They really do. It's just, I'm not going to tell you how much poop was in their fucking system.
Okay, fair enough.
As we're going.
I just want to make sure that nobody pooped in front of the ladies and got really embarrassed, and the girls laughed at them.
And then
that's
cut
when the brawl
wall
started.
Just started punching people.
Forget it. Yeah.
I'm never gonna get laid. That's a whole other time. He walks out to die.
They all do. Even the women do.
Well, out of solidarity.
Maybe they all pooped their pants and they were all embarrassed and they were all mocking each other. And they were like, well,
They knew one of them pooped their pants because
Yeah.
they could smell it.
Yeah.
All of them thought it was them because they all did it, but they didn't know they all did it.
Yeah.
They thought they were
So
the
it was a
one.
game of Clue that got
Yeah, but it
super
turned out they all
violent.
shit their pants.
poop clue.
Now,
Clue.
I think it's an Always Sunny episode.
Now, a lot of these, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
A lot of these wins come with another thing, which no
Change.
one really thought about.
That's
hate
Germany
you guys.
with the scorpions.
Sorry.
But I love that. Thank you.
I try not to interrupt Jerry, but that opportunity was too fresh.
Yeah.
No, they came with something else. They something that wasn't really posed until Dead Mountain came out, and that is infrasound. Now, infrasound is a imperceptible sound, right? That is on a lower frequency than we can actually perceive of. But what it can do is it can make you very anxious, and it can make you very scared, and it can make you want to leave wherever you are. In fact, governments across the world, including our own, police forces, not military, but police forces have used these. The Israeli government has used these sound weapons, to make people go away. Basically what they're doing is they are projecting infrasound onto groups or protesters.
So basically,
and it makes
what
them
they're
want to
doing,
leave.
you know those Halloween tapes where it's like, ooh, and
Whoa.
yeah, you know
There's
what I mean?
chains.
Chains and creaky doors, and
Yeah.
people are like, what's that? They're just playing that at them really loud.
Yeah.
And they're like, ah!
Infrasound. You can't perceive of it.
Yeah, I'm very, very much familiar with infrasound, especially since with the Capitol Hill protest that happened last year,
Yes.
SPD was using sonic warfare on people, and if you do not have hearing protection, when you get fucking blasted by that shit, you get permanent hearing damage.
Yes.
Other forms of that. Sorry, Jerry.
No, go for it.
But other forms of that you may experience is like if you're at like say a mall or like at a store or something, and all of a sudden you hear like high pitched ringing in your ears. That's infrasound targeted in that sort of certain area, specifically to dissuade teenagers, younger people who have good hearing to not fucking hang out in that area.
Yeah.
Which is mind-boggling to me.
When they've done like outside of 7-Elevens.
Yeah, exactly.
They've projected infrasound to make teenagers go away because they have better hearing. They have younger ears, so they don't want to be there.
Yeah, so either within the sub frequencies, the human ear can hear between 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. The older you get, the more that you lose your higher frequencies.
Right.
So that's why, like, for example, the 7-Eleven, malls, whatever, it's the higher frequencies that they concentrate and will blast in certain areas so that the younger kids will get the fuck out of there. It's so fucking crazy to me.
Two things I want to add is one, there was the sound-based weapons that were being used towards American intelligence people in Cuba, and as we know, Cuba and Russia are
Like
Jerry's
Best
crossing
friends.
his fingers. You guys know the gesture, and so hey, there's that, and also another thing I want to bring in that maybe you guys didn't think of is many say that the Sasquatch communicates via infrasound and can weaponize it to scare away his foes.
Oh my god. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I've heard
Case
people say
closed.
that the Sasquatch's yell is the scariest thing they've ever heard.
it's a KGB Sasquatch. Case closed.
I'm not saying I believe it.
Have you ever heard a cougar roar?
Oh God, it's so terrifying.
It sounds like a woman screaming
I
bloody
once
murder.
heard. I'm not saying that Sasquatch is real. I'm saying that that's what people say. I did once I was at the zoo and I heard the jaguar eat a rabbit and it was like, and it was really, really cool.
Yeah.
A jaguar's. I made eye contact with it once and a shiver went down my spine.
Go on YouTube and look up a cougar growling or howling or roaring or whatever. When people say that they're like camping and they hear a blood-curdling scream, a woman screaming, it's a cougar.
Yep.
It's a cougar. It's not a ghost, I'm sorry. Anyway.
Coyotes are also terrifying to hear, too.
Yes, they are. These are naturally occurring infrasounds that are happening. Now, 22% of the population is susceptible to infrasound. Now, the thing is, yeah, does it make you want to leave? Does it make you anxious? Does it make you want to get out of there? Yes. Does it make you, experienced hiker, want to cut your way out of your own safe tent and run a mile away in your own stocking feet? I'm unconvinced. They all did it. Not one person stayed at the tent.
Right.
That's fishy to me. Now, so we got the vortex, we got the infrasound. There's another one that just came out,
Yeah.
and it is a different kind of avalanche.
Oh.
Which is
They got an avalanche of fists brought on by a kangaroo.
Oh my god!
You're like, I don't know how you guys got it.
Yeah, I don't. You just got it right off the bat.
I thought Chris was going to say an avalanche of flavor, and then it would go into an advertisement for like a new kind of Mountain Dew or something.
That would be great.
Yeah, Baja Blast.
Get blasted. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, it's Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
they heard
the
there was-
Coors Light train
Yeah.
rolled by.
Just fucking decimated all of them. One
You
was
got
like,
hit by the Coors Light train.
yeah, I brought a beer.
No! We're sober!
Just crashes through the tent.
A train just riddled with like
Skeletons.
well-endowed women in American flag bikinis just fucking obliterates all of them.
Everything they hate. Capitalism.
The curse of capitalism in America fucking just obliterated
Dog
them.
wearing sunglasses.
Don't forget the talking frogs.
Yeah, and talking frogs. How could we forget the talking frogs?
Yeah.
And Clydesdales, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember that penguin that was calling from inside the house?
Oh, yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
That was good.
He was like, I'm in your house. And the babysitter was like, No, this is a snow slab avalanche. Now the thing is
Came down in a bit of a slab.
yeah, now the regulation style of building on the side of a hill for your tent was you and I was in the Boy Scouts, so I kind of know this.
Oh, you're a scout?
Yeah, you kind of cut into the side of the mountain,
All right.
and it's always against the wind, right? So the wind is passing over the mountain, so you're shielded from the wind, right? And you cut into the mountain, so you can sit on a flat surface, and you pile all the snow that you've dug onto one side, on the mountain side, right? And it guards you from the wind. Okay?
Right.
Now, this could have been an unintentional mistake just from where they were. Because avalanche, they're not on a slope to actually have a real avalanche, right? The slope isn't steep enough, right? So, when they do this, and they cut, and they do that, it creates cracks in the harder slabs of snow below them, the more frozen slabs of snow below them. And because the weather was bad, it could have had cracks in these slabs, and the slabs could have slid. They probably didn't slide far, but once they felt it, and they heard all of this shit going on, because the weather was bad, and probably there was vortexes, and yes, probably infrasound, coupled with sliding down a hill a little bit, that would have been enough for me personally to cut my way out of the tent.
Yeah. I'd be like, pass.
Yeah.
Dyatlov Pass.
Yeah. And the thing is
That is.
is it has to be scary enough to cut your way out of a tent. That would all those three things happening at the same time, I think, would have been enough to get me out of the tent in that fashion.
So you're saying it was the slab slide,
Yes.
the wind sound, and the kangaroo all at the same time?
Yeah.
The small tornadoes, the infrasound, and the snow slab avalanche.
Oh, okay.
Now, once they ran and didn't look back, once they ran and looked back, because these vortexes and these small tornadoes, they only last about a minute, and then they're gone. So once they realized their mistake, they were like, "What have we done?"
Oh, and they probably don't even... Well, yeah.
You know,
Isn't
so they
it whiteout,
realized
too? Like...
it's whiteout conditions, and this is why they're found in different areas.
Okay.
It's not like they scattered. Some people say that they scattered. It's not really true. Their footprints went apart, then back together, then apart again.
Okay.
So they were found in different areas, and some of them had signs of crawling back to the tent. Okay, it was clear that they were going back to the tent. Now let's talk about their injuries. Okay, let's talk about what really happened here. What I think really happened. They ran away from their tent after these three things were happening to them, which would have been horrifying. Two guys make it to the cedar tree, and they're like, "Oh fuck, dude, we gotta do something. We got to make a fire now.
We biffed it.
Now."
This is a botched job.
A dude climbs up the tree. Maybe he's also looking to see the tent. You know, looking far enough to see the tent. Maybe he is. But he breaks down the tree branches. He cuts a few of them with his knife, right? He's must have been the one with the knife that sliced the tent, because he has a knife with him. He cuts down some of these. It's clear that he fell from there because he was on top of tree branches.
Right.
Okay? And it's clear that they did make a fire. But the thing is, as we know from Shackleton, as soon as they got heat, they fell asleep. And like Shackleton, when he was up on the mountain with the other two guys, like trying to rescue everybody, they were starting to fall asleep, and he was like, "Wait a minute, that's a death sentence. I can't fall asleep up here." And he woke everyone up, right?
Yeah.
These two guys, as soon as they got the fire, they found comfort in it and fell asleep immediately, and that was their death sentence.
Yeah.
They died of hypothermia, because that is a hypothermia thing, right?
At least they died in their sleep.
But what about the other guy who didn't climb the tree's blunt force trauma?
Okay.
Fell on
Well,
him.
okay. Well, the thing is that's why these two guys have burns on them. It's because they let their hands fall into the fire. They didn't stoke the fire, right? So it only burned for a little bit, hot and fast, and that was gone, right? Now, the other people running in the other direction, it's several meters away from where they are, a couple hundred meters from where they are. One thing that people miss is that their bodies were found at the bottom of a small ravine.
Oh, so they probably fell.
They fell. And when you're running full speed, terrified and confused, you're not
You're gonna
looking.
go flying off that
you
fucking...
flew and you like hit.
That would explain the car, like...
It would
yeah.
it would explain, because keep in mind these rocks are still there and they're only just a couple of inches below the snow surface, right? When they hit rocks, and it really fucked them up. And one guy was not. He was one of them that was found with the rest of them that were all sorts of fucked up, but he didn't have any of that blunt force trauma. It's because he landed on top of somebody, and that broke his fall, right? And that is why he was
a lot more than that.
He was still alive, right? And everyone else is now like bleeding and all fucked up. But when he stands up and he looks around, he sees their fire meters away.
Oh.
And this is all conjecture, but he goes, you know, my only hope is I get to them and maybe I can rescue the rest of them because they have a fire going.
Right.
You know? So he is the third set of footprints. He goes over to them, because something I didn't mention until just now is that their clothes were torn off of them. Torn and cut off of them. He picks up the knife, he cuts and tears the clothes off of them and takes them with him. Because he knows, because once he gets there, they're dead. they're dead of hypothermia, and he knows
Like, might
it.
as well.
Right.
So he takes their because he wants to save his friends back there. So he cuts
There's no
the clothes
saving
off
these
of
guys.
them. No, they're gone. He cuts the clothes off of them and he takes them back, and he wraps up one of them's feet. I think it's Lugia's feet because she has one shoe on, and he wraps it up, and it's clear that he tried to warm them up, but he succumbs. He loses consciousness. He succumbs to hypothermia, while they have blunt force trauma. Now, Lugia, who has the tongue missing, she's the only one with the tongue missing. You'd think they would all have the tongue missing, right? If animals pick it out of you, like the eyes, right? Eyes, animals will get at.
Mule crows, they really go for the eyes.
And a lot of them had eyes missing, so that's not a mystery.
That's probably birds.
But one, oh yeah, totally. But your tongue,
I could see something.
the only person that had her tongue missing was her, Lugia.
She probably bit it off when she fell.
Bit it off as she fell.
That's what I was thinking.
And it exacerbated the situation, so her tongue was gone. It was taken.
She's
it was
bleeding
gone.
out of her mouth. And
that is why she had the congealed blood in her stomach.
Oh, yeah.
Because she was swallowing it
That makes perfect
as she was alive, dying of these injuries. And then others died of other injuries where they probably fell on rocks, but they fell down clearly on their way. And by the way, the reason why the bodies were arranged by the cedar tree is because after he cut the clothes off of them, he set them down as respectfully as he could, because they were his friends, and that is why they're arranged that way. They look arranged, right? As he ran away. Jeez.
so this, I mean, whether the details are specifically accurate, like the point is can be a reasonable explanation for all this.
Yes,
right?
yes, 100%.
What I'm curious about, though, is how does a kangaroo learn to cover its snow tracks?
Also, the radiation. Let's talk about the radiation.
I've been dying to talk about the radiation all day.
Okay. So there were abnormal levels of radiation in their clothes, and people point to aliens or secret government ops, right?
Right.
A couple of them worked. They were nuclear physicists. They worked around nuclear things. Also, 1,200 miles away, the Russians were, in fact, testing nuclear weapons.
Yeah, that's not too shocking.
And
during this
it
time
went
period.
into the atmosphere, and it came down as snow, right? The radiation came down with the snow. So that is why they are irradiated.
Yeah, that's not too shocking.
It's not shocking.
Really?
It's really not.
I would be shocked to hear, if somebody were like, the Russians weren't testing any nuclear
I know,
weapons.
right? And there was
Like,
radiation.
yes, they were.
Yeah, they were.
We were.
Certainly were. Yeah.
I mean, I personally was
Yeah.
during this time period.
So I believe it is, if not one thing, it is all three of those last 3 points together.
Yeah. It's just a lot of weird shit all happened at once.
Well, shit. Case closed.
Yeah.
We did it.
Yep.
Kangaroo
No one will
thing is
ever
pretty
actually
funny.
know, for sure.
I really ran with that. Tyler came up with it, but I drove it into the ground.
Yeah. You wanted to make sure it would never come back from the dead.
I just thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
Boing, boing, boing.
Well, anyway, thank you, Jenny, for giving us this recommendation. We did want to cover it. It was definitely on our short list. And I hope this was satisfactory, at least to you. And happy Halloween,
Yay.
dear listeners.
Ooh.
This is the 30th, as we are releasing it.
Devil's Night.
Yes, happy Samhain.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, don't poison any candy. Have a good time trick-or-treating with you and yours. And we
maybe read or listen to a reading of some Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Some Nathaniel Hawthorne as well.
We want to see you post and tag at HistoryBoiz podcast
Your costumes.
your sluttiest costumes
No,
as Edgar
just-
Allan Poe.
Oh, just
I want to see a
Sex-
sexy Edgar
sexy
Allan.
Edgar
Yeah.
Allan Poe.
sure it's happening.
Even if it's
That
not
head's
that,
wearing nothing at all.
Show us your costumes. We do like costumes. Show us your costumes. We love costumes.
All right, everybody, thank you for listening. We are the History Boys. That was a very interesting episode. I appreciate all the kangaroo jokes somebody was making. I am Christopher Whedon. I am a history boy.
I am Tyler Armentrout, and I'm gonna miss spooky season. I'm gonna miss giving you guys an episode a week. A lot to listen to, a lot to chew on. if you do need some more content with yours truly in it, I mentioned a little while back that I did a guest spot on Anthology of Heroes. And by the time you listen to this, that episode will have been out since the previous Monday. So I think Elliot from Anthology said it's coming out on Monday Monday's the 24th.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So he's going to be out that day. We do a little bit of skewering of a really, really poorly made historical drama called Day of Siege. Check it out if it sounds like your cup of tea.
I am Zach Mech, and like the Phantom in the night on this Hallows Eve, I will be disappearing once again, and I this time for realsies will not see you. Or,
Not for realsies.
Well,
you're going
not-
to come back at some point.
I'm going to come back, but it's not going
You
to be
made it
until
sound like
January.
you made it sound like you're going to give yourself a sky burial.
I mean, what the fuck, dude? You're ruining everything. I was going to do my resurrection thing because I kind of look like Jesus too. Like,
Yeah,
you're
that makes
fucking everything up, Jerry.
That's what I do.
God damn it!
He was going to come back for the Easter episode.
But yeah, I will see you guys next year. So,
All right.
yeah.
All right.
And I'm a history boy.
Oh, yes.
Fuck you. Don't forget that.
Never forget.
And I am Jerry Nash, your humble history boy as always. Thank you so much for listening. You, dear listener, mean the most to us. And let's not forget about our Patreon pals. They also mean so much to us. They give us money to keep this podcast going, and basically they're paying for our rent on air is what they're doing. They keep us in all of these places that you listen to us.
That being said, there is one Patreon pal that we swear that we might have given the shout out to, but better safe than sorry.
Yeah, I'd rather mention them right now
So
than not at all.
David.
About time you got onto the Discord, David. That's why
Indeed.
we're all fucking confused. Because
Indeed.
we're all alcoholics. And we don't remember these things.
Yeah.
It's all true.
Yeah, so David from Alabama, we're shouting you out.
And
Yeah.
we are so very happy that you are finally on the Discord.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And all of our listeners that have joined our Discord, Jenny, who suggested this episode.
Didn't Kat
all of-
suggest Lizzie
Lizzie
Borden?
Borden?
Yeah.
The one we did last time. Yeah, that was a really fun one.
So we're not going to say that listener requests get fast tracked if they're on the Discord, but
If you have my ear at the right time,
yeah,
maybe.
maybe not officially, but
Yeah.
unofficially.
Unofficially, I will say that. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagrams, and give us a 5-star review wherever you find us, and subscribe to us. It really helps us out a lot. And you don't spend a dime that way. You just and it helps us out. Thank you so much for anyone who's left one of those as well. Anyway, I finally get to say this. We're finally all here for spooky season, and the one that comes out right before Halloween. Mr. Zach, we've all done it. Mr. Zach, can you lead us off on our Halloween spooky season episode, please?
Love you, bye.